Hi, this is Ryen with Generational Talk. So in the following video, we begin a basic dive into the study of the Enneagram. Now, I mean very basic. We don't really go that deep. We just examine each number step by step. So if you're not aware of the topic, if you're not aware of the subject, this is a good introduction video for you. So join the conversation and hit the subscribe button for more videos just like this. We're with Jay here. Jay is somebody that I met in the Enneagram community. He's big on that and Myers-Briggs. And so after a couple conversations with Jay, I realized that there's a big generational component to this. It seems like a lot of people in our age group are becoming fans of the Enneagram more and more. And there's like podcasts and so many things just popping up, so many YouTube videos. You have a YouTube channel, right, Jay?
Yes, yeah, it's the Ground Up channel. I discuss different personality types as well as some other small topics.
Okay. And so I just feel like there's definitely a huge generational component to this. So let's start out with your type. So Jay, what is your Enneagram?
Enneagram is 8, also known as a Challenger, with the wing 7. I'm a
And I'm a,
SPSX.
and I'm an 8. And Darius, you just found out. Darius is a skeptic here. He just found out his type. I don't know, skeptic. Is that too hard of a word? Or are you like just or agnostic about it? Like,
I mean, as skeptic is probably right.
okay.
But for mine, it scored me as a 5, and of course, my second highest was a 6. So that's skeptic, I think. So 5, 6.
Probably 5 over 6 wing. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Darius has a twin brother. His name is Cole, and he hasn't joined the show yet. And so we're thinking about bringing him in on a follow-up video to this. He's going to take the test, and we're just going to compare and contrast. But right now, let's just focus on like Enneagram 101. So, Jay, when did you first get connected to the Enneagram?
I first got connected to the Enneagram after discovering MBTI. So I discovered MBTI through life challenges. I was sort of dealing with issues with getting along with people. I didn't fare well in my environment. There's a lot of conflict, so I wanted to dive deep and see what it is that made me sort of different. And sure enough, I was able to find something. I found the MBTI and Enneagram.
And Myers-Briggs was definitely the first thing I got into. I type as an ENFP, so that's weird. ENFPs and Enneagram 8s, they don't usually mix in the middle, but after investigation, I'm starting to see how that works, and that's going to be a whole nother episode. What do you think makes the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs different from each other?
Okay, so for the Enneagram, I relate that more so to nurture. That has a lot to do with motivation and nurture,
Mm-hmm.
your adaptation and what you need to survive in a certain situation.
Okay.
And then MBTI would be more of your nature. What tools do you have? What tools do your brain use? What functions do you use?
So there are 9 types, and each type is basically each number is associated with character traits and motivations. That's like how I break it down. Like with Myers-Briggs really feels like a personality test. Sometimes it could get BuzzFeedish, and then sometimes it could feel like astrology, and then sometimes it can really feel very helpful when you get more into like cognitive functions and things like that. But with Enneagram, I appreciate it because I feel like there's a certain philosophy behind it that really helps me understand the why I do what I do.
Yeah.
So, um, so breaking it down, there's type 1. How would you describe type 1?
They are into trying to perfect situations. They want to make sure that everything's right. They want to be good. And that tends to really things can be a little tense when it comes to 8s and 1s because 8s are sort of do as we please, and then 1s are more so do what is right, do what the correct thing is. And so yeah,
Law
I would
abiding.
describe them as law abiding. Yeah.
And so type 1, the official, I'm using the EnneagramInstitute.com, and they have type 1 as it's called the reformer, and it's principled, purposeful, self-controlled, perfectionist. They're the ones, and see, a lot of this could really get into, I think, stereotypes. If I was to describe them, they're well put together. They they're organized. They like an organized environment. But I think at their core, they just want. What do you think their motivation is?
Yeah,
Not necessarily how they look.
everybody's core is to initially um receive some type of, it's like a value, is what they value. So if
Right.
you're going to try to perfect something, then you feel as though you need to, in order to be of either importance or to be in the right, or to sort of be okay in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, so it's not, their actions don't necessarily determine the one factor. It's the motivation behind it,
Mm-hmm.
which is they want to be good in order to have value.
And so then we move on to type 2.
Myself as an Enneagram 8, I like twos a lot because they tend to be very caring, and they sort of tend to break down my walls. They're very right, nurturing, caring. They want to. Their value comes from being caring and caring for other people. They want to help other people and make
Mm-hmm.
sure other people's needs are met.
And then there's 3.
Their value comes from achievement. So they are valuable. They feel valuable if they achieve. They must be successful to have value in their mind. That's how they
And
see it. So
and they're big on image. Sometimes 3s, they're adaptable. So maybe I think they have a thing with deceit. So they're not, I don't want to paint them as
yeah,
dishonest, but they're definitely quick to change their brand and their image.
here's how I think things should be painted. I agree with what you're saying. It shouldn't be painted. Nobody should be painted one way or the other solely.
Mm-hmm.
However, everybody's a double-edged sword, and so everybody has good and bad within them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just, there's healthy and then there's unhealthy.
Right. Yin
And
yang.
so yeah, yeah,
And threes are definitely they. I think the good about 3 is that they come in. We probably should backtrack even to 1. The good about 1 is that we need somebody to be law abiding, to be the
yeah.
prosecutor. Like, hey guys, we need order. We need that.
Hmm.
But then to a certain extent, they could come off judgmental and unbendable, not willing to move and go with the flow. 2,
Right.
we need people who are altruistic, willing to help. But then I think after a while that could be obsessive, especially if you feel that you're not loved if you don't help. Like that person is
Yeah.
seeking, that person is only helping someone because they're trying to seek some type of affirmation and love in return. And I think 3s are similar to 2s because they're also seeking affirmation. I think the danger of the 3 is that if they come off as a loser, that just kills their whole flow. That kills their vibe because they want
Mm.
to win. I suspect 3s sometimes don't even enter a challenge.
Losing situations.
Yeah, yeah. And see, it is also easy for me to talk a little bit about 3. I don't want to complicate things too far, but I think I do have some 3 in me. I think there's other philosophies that say that there are other types. There's a tri-type. Everybody
Yeah.
has
Try
like
type.
everybody has a number from each category. And so I think 3 is one of my numbers, but that's a totally different situation. This is 101 here. So there's 4,
Yeah.
right? Moving on to
Yeah.
4. How would you
Yeah.
describe it?
I would describe them as very melancholy, and I would say that something about them is the nature of seeing the beauty and disaster, sort of wanting to go to the depths of human behavior
Mhm.
and sort of see the beauty in what that is, or sort of like to create beauty out of the nasty or out of the ugly. So I feel like they dwell a lot on the negative in order to find the positive within it.
My perception is they're not afraid of the dark side. They're not afraid of that. They're okay with being melancholy. They're the individualists. They're expressive. Um, that they're all about trying to find what's authentic, what's real. You know, on the downside, I think sometimes if they enter the situation and they find that somebody else has a hat that's similar, this is very superficial, but like let's say somebody else has the same hat, they may get a little upset about that, take that hat off, throw it away because now somebody is still in their uniqueness. Um, so I think downside, they can be temperamental. maybe self-absorbed, more focused on how they feel internally. I think they could dip into self-hate, but
Yeah.
which is sad because while they may be so hard on themselves, just like I think a 3 could be hard on themselves, 4s are very good at reading other people and allowing other people to be themselves and express. So now we're dipping into 5, and Darius, you just discovered you're a 5 type. You just took it.
Right.
How would you describe 5, Jay?
So I would describe 5 as wanting to know the absolute truth in any given situation. They want to understand the depth of it, and they're very unbiased. And I would say that anything that it has a bias, they sort of reject, and they really don't like. They prefer for things to be open and for the truth just to come in through investigation and understanding.
I love 5 types because and I would say like Darius and his brother, they're definitely like been online friends for years now. So if this is true, that makes a lot of sense. I think I've subconsciously surrounded myself with 5s and 9s and stuff like that. I think I have 5 in me. We'll get to that when we start to talk about 8. But like, they're the investigators. They're not afraid to try to get to the bottom of things and ask why. Stereotypically, they can come off introverted, but that's one big thing, by the way. This isn't about who's an introvert and extrovert. Like, you'll find introvert and extroverts in every type, but stereotypically I think 5s are depicted as introverts because they're in that cave, consuming research. That's my perception of it.
I think that's very, very accurate. I'd say that's very spot
on. And then there's 6, and 6, I don't know anything about 6. So the way you feel about 1, I may feel about 6. And
I do too. I mean,
the weird thing about it is I think most of the world is full of. I think we live in a 6 world. I said earlier we live in a 3 world, but I think 6 is also a big one.
Yeah. So 6, 3, and possibly 1, maybe 2.
Yeah. And they're.
But
Go on. You got it.
I agree.
Okay.
6s, they're more about security, and they're more about they just want to make sure that everything is good. They want to make sure that everything is in place and where it should be. They sort of have this sense of what is dangerous or what could go wrong, what could be bad, those types of things. They're very focused on it. Not saying that they're always all scared of things. That doesn't have to be the case. But a lot of times they just are solely focused, I would say very focused. They're very focused on what could go wrong.
So now I get the hashtag COVID-19 by using 6. I feel like 6 are the types that have been prepared for an
toilet
event
paper.
like this. They collect the toilet paper. Some of them may have a bunker. They're definitely big. Some of them may have like a big elaborate security system. So when the world turns into Walking Dead, they're ready. They're ready. Yeah.
It's like
ISTJ.
Right. Right. My thought exactly. Yeah. It also sounds like our sort of our character. It's our stereotype of Generation X, I think.
Bingo.
No.
I have associated like generations to each type, and countries. Like I feel like our country is a 3 country. I feel like we live in a 3 world. Like you said it. We already talked about that. So let's stay in order. I'm gonna force if I have any ounce of 1 in me, I'm forcing that 1 right now. This is not my format. Like,
well, it could be 3. It could be 3.
Because off the record, Jay and I have just talked. It just without any order, and so much information comes through that way. But for somebody who's watching this and may without any idea, I'm trying to tailor this for them. So we have 7. And that's why I think I hate the order. I think it's my 7. I do have a strong 7. I have a strong 8, and I have a 7, and I have a 3. That's my tri-type. So 7, spontaneous, scattered. 7, like so I said earlier that just even talking about 7 is making my eyes wander. I'm ENFP, and ENFPs I think naturally fit into the 7 box. There really isn't a strong relation between Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, but if there was one, I definitely see it between 7 and any ENFP. They just want to have fun. They're seeking an adventure. They like the novelty of life. I could go on for days describing 7 because I get it. 7 and 8. But yeah, what's your
Yeah,
perception?
it's very. I think that sevens are, they can be intriguing. It's very interesting to see them bounce around.
Mhm.
They're all about the freedom and everything, and not wanting to be tied down.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I could see myself to some extent like that,
Hmm.
but then again, I'll start to sort of question like where they get their energy from because I'm not like that to that extent.
Right.
They're
And
very yeah.
well, it's the gluttony too. The gluttony is that we're not core 7s, so we're not motivated by them. So if they were associated with sin, it would be gluttony. They're just always trying to fulfill something, some type of thing. I don't know if it's to cover up pain or not face reality, but they're just always on constantly. And I
Well,
don't
it's
feel
like
they're allowed.
it's like a dog chasing a
Right,
car or something, you know.
right. And I think they could be serious. I don't think they're all like bouncing off the walls and purple rainbows and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, I think especially when you get into wings, which we haven't tapped on yet. But um, now we get to 8, and I'll give you the floor 8, which is big. We're
All
both
right.
8, and I'm giving you the floor.
Okay.
Go on, 8.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I do. So the thing is about being ENTP. I'm an ENTP. I'm also 8. Just like you, it's not the most common because most common for ENTPs are usually sevens.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting. I don't know. Where can I start?
Yeah, because we're so deep into this. Well, 8s, okay. 8s and 3s are. I'll talk about how they're similar. 8s and 3s, they value leadership, but with 8, it's more of a control power thing, maybe. And I don't know if it's a Bowser, King Cooper, collect them all type, but it's
I think that for me, I'm not very. I think it also depends on your instinctual variance. I think that's
right,
another thing. But
right.
I'm very individualistic. Self-preservation eights are
Mhm.
very much so about boundaries. I'm very
Mhm.
boundary oriented, and I want to respect other people's boundaries, and
Mhm.
I want them to respect mine as well. So it's very simple. It's very simple. It's just like any other. Like if you see something like let's say like a dog, to be honest,
Mhm.
who's like you go over too close to his food and he'll start growling at you. That's
Mhm.
about it. So I mean, there's that part of me, and then there's the other, like the nurturing, the very two-ish side of me.
Mhm.
I have a lot of what we really want is to protect that soft spot that we have, that sort of internal caring aspect of us that we feel has been hurt in some sort of way.
I think there's a side of 8 that's kind of guarded a little bit. 8 has struggled with vulnerability. Co-hosting a show like this has been kind of hard because I feel that one has to be a little bit more vulnerable. You're expecting your guests to be vulnerable and open and share their generational experience. And me, on the other hand, I'm not sharing it as much. And it's not a 3 thing. I'm not worried about image, and I don't really care. Like I'll make a fool of myself. I'm not, like my
So
7.
what?
My 7 is goofy, but my 8 is a little bit guarded. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
Um,
So I think what you're saying, like I understand, and that's from you have two sort of conflicting sides because you're 8, you're also ENFP,
mhm,
and you want the value to sort of be you want to take in the value of what people are saying, but then again, you have that guardedness. I
mhm,
think that although you want that to be the case,
mhm,
that doesn't necessarily have to be the end all because
mhm.
people are still going to take something, they're still going to gain something from this learning about ENFP8s.
Right,
That's
right,
one thing right there that they can learn is that you have that conflicting side. So,
right. And this is why Jay is good, by the way. Jay,
Mhm.
like my cognitive function may be cool about like structuring the show, but this guy, he's good at reading people, and that's the part of the conversation I really want to get into. Let's get over
Uh,
8. Let's go to 9, which is the last type. 9 is the peacemaker. 9s are very chilled. 9s just want to. They may come across as the one that are trying to find the win-win situation to compromise. What is your perception?
all right. So I'm going off of my value, like always. Like I'm just
Yeah,
tell you how I feel. Like they scare me. Nines scare me because they're so calm that I just don't understand what there is to be calm about. Like
they're going to kill you.
I don't
They're
know.
planning their plot.
I don't know. Like to me, the like growing up, I always thought the world was a a war zone, a battlefield. I don't
mm,
understand why. Like, are you
mhm.
really that calm in war? Like that's really what I think. But how I
And
feel.
what?
Okay, so what
Yeah.
their nature is like you said, they want a win-win situation. I'm starting to learn more about them. I understand that they want to see all sides, and that's something that I'm just not getting into. So
And why they're so scary is because, like I said, the Enneagram is broken up into triads. There's like a group that focuses on like goodness, the heart focuses on shame. The thinking group
right.
focus on fear. Is a thinking group about fear?
Uh,
And
I can't remember.
our group, the gut group, is focused on anger. And
Yeah.
like we have anger, and so if you think about nine and ones, they have anger. Like the stereotype of the eight is somebody that's fiery and somebody that's like going to come in the room and you know what I mean? Like I seem calm here,
Yeah.
but like I have but life experiences made me learn how to control, certain anger. So basically, I keep
You have
the anger
you have an
inside.
undertone. I can
Yeah,
tell you have an 8 undertone.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so
Yeah.
inside there's like constant like this weird vibrating heat that's like you know what I mean, that's inside of me that I'm constantly like just trying to keep cork in. And that's like maybe that's my nine wing, because I think nine wings really do a good job at that. But the thing
I mean,
is,
hey,
but they never seem to explode. That's just it. That's why they're scary, because they're fueled by anger, but yet they don't always let it out. And if they do let it out, I feel like somebody's going to die.
well, yeah, that and I just feel like sometimes they're like I understand people mean well. Everybody has their good sides and their bad sides. A lot of times with my experiences in life, a lot of issues that I've had
Yeah.
are from people thinking like because everybody has their vice. Everybody has something that they're like sort of the negative traits. For
Hmm.
an 8, it's wanting to protect ourselves, and
Right.
so a lot of times how when I'm in a situation where I see myself protecting myself,
Hmm.
they'll see it as, oh no, I got to make it not into a big deal.
Hmm.
Well, you can't make it into a not a big deal that I feel like I'm getting attacked. Like
Hmm.
that's like
Hmm.
if I feel like I'm getting attacked, if you downplay it, then it's gonna make it. I'm gonna feel like I'm crazy. It's gonna make it even worse. Like I'm just gonna be like, I'm dying on the inside.
Hmm.
So
What's cool about the Enneagram is how also there's each one has a number, but then you could break it down even more, because then there's that number. How does that number look when they're in health and when they're in stress? Like a number could actually
yeah,
jump to or appear like another number depending upon their emotional status. Like
yeah.
for like
So for
art, go on. You
for an
got it.
8, okay, that's your TE right there. You're like, all right, let's see what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you
So
convinced me
for
I
an
had a
8,
T.
you got the two factor which comes into play when we're healthy, and that looks like honestly as an ENTP, I think I can look a lot like an ENFJ whenever I become very healthy and I want to maybe I respect somebody. I usually have a lot of respect for my elders and people
Hmm.
above me, so I tend to want to do good and be good in their eyes.
Hmm.
And so this can come off like just very fe, like how are they feeling, how are you doing, and
Hmm.
then opposite, on the other side of the spectrum, whenever I'm sort of in a bad situation, I feel negative,
Hmm.
I'll be more like a 5, more
Hmm.
contemplative, more,
Hmm.
okay, what am I going to do in this situation? How am I going to gain control again?
Hmm.
How am I going to, I'll start TIing, I'll start coming up with, okay, this works like this. And then, so if that happens,
Hmm.
then I'm going to do this. And
Hmm.
then, so
Jay's using Myers-Briggs language, cognitive functions. So by FE meaning harmonizing, eight in health, eights can look like twos. We could be altruistic. We could suddenly look like Oprah Winfrey and trying to help others. Because I think what really helps an eight out is if we're thinking about others, we're protecting others, we're helping others be the best that they can be. um,
yeah.
we're helping others succeed. Unlike a three that maybe focuses on how I can win. I think eights, and maybe that's a judgment. That could be a judgment of my judgment of threes. But I think an eight focuses on how other people can win, and be independent. I think eights are the ones that will push another person in a pool and let them figure out how to swim. So, which is funny because that's another story. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
I have a theory about that. I think that a lot of eights
uh,
make threes. A lot of eights make threes is what I theorize.
I
So
think so too, and I'm starting to see
if
signs of that. I don't believe in typing kids, but I see a 3 in the making.
yeah, so the thing is that being an eight, like I don't have any kids, but I have younger siblings, and growing up, a lot of times my brother's a three.
Hmm.
Um, I always wanted to always be protective of him, but at the same time, I always pushed for him to like to succeed in whatever he did.
Hmm.
And so I think that sort of ties a lot into I'll protect you if there's any danger. However, you need to be successful. You need to be able to. It was not about success in my mind. To me, it was just about being able to do something, being able to succeed in order to get what you want.
And that potentially 3 child is constantly seeking our approval and affirmation and wants to be
Right.
successful in our eyes. We may come across a little bit more. Because I have a 7, I definitely have a goofy side. I'll get on the ground with you and I'll roll around and wrestle. But I do have probably a little bit side that's more like, results and do this and blah, 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 blah. And so that
Yeah.
that 3 may feel a little pressure to please me. Like if we were a pack of dogs, I may be like the alpha dog in the house. Why are we comparing ourselves to dogs? But people get what I'm saying.
I get
So
what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
it's sort of like they want to please you, but you don't want them to try to please you. They
no,
just
that's not what I want. I don't
yeah
want them to
yeah
please me. No, you be you, but just be a good you.
yeah.
Be sufficient, self-sufficient. But don't do things just because I want you to do. Don't wear a certain face because you think that's what I
Yeah.
want to see. You know.
But they may take it that way. Then they're like, okay, I have to succeed in somebody else's eyes. I have to right. So I
Mhm. So
think that's definitely
you're 8. What is your so let's use our example and then we'll get to Darius. That's how we could get personal now. We can get away from the academic blah blah blah. So
yeah
you're 8, and like I said, there are other numbers you have. So we talked about how your 2 is, and your 5 makes you go withdraw, go into a cave, investigative mode. All right, and
yeah
that's how my 5 works. Like usually, I feel if I'm in a situation that I feel like I have no control over, then I will retreat to a world that I can control. And that often relates to like my books, whatever I'm obsessing about, my research. AIDS can kind of be obsessive because we're driven by if this our sin would be lust. And so it's not
yeah.
necessarily
And we just go after it
yeah,
and keep going.
we need more, you know what I mean? That intensity, you know what I mean? So if I'm not finding that intensity externally, then I'm gonna go deep into the study of generations and just know everything,
Yeah
high consuming. And that's the whole 5 thing, it's our cave. Um,
yeah
and then there's the wings. So you have each type, and then it spreads out into the other categories. Like, so it's just like a wing. So
yeah.
some people may have more of a wing. How would you describe wing? Go on. You.
So I would describe wing.
For the record, I'm supposed to play dumb and act like I don't know anything.
No, no, no. I'm surprised the 5. I mean, the 5 is just taking in all this information. They're just like
Yeah.
collecting everything. Or they're
Mhm.
um, it's just very interesting. It's very interesting interaction. But okay, so for the wings,
Mhm.
see, I've heard different things. I've heard that wings. You say like the people have said that you have access to both sides. I always theorize on my own. I don't necessarily. I'll hear what the person has to have to say, but I'm not gonna.
That's our
I'm very
8.
investigative.
That's our 8.
Yeah, well, that's my T. I'm very T. I'm TI oriented. I'm TI, so I'm going to
Mhm.
be very investigative, and it's going to be
Mhm.
focused solely on how my logic is,
Mhm.
and how I see it is the wings are sort of that's I honestly haven't looked into that. I haven't actually like questioned. I've not questioned
Mhm.
why we have wings. I've sort of look at it and say, no, you know what? I got it. Figured
Why
it out.
you why you figured out? You just made me realize. You said question. Now I'm starting to see the relationship between the 8 and the 5s. I think 8s and 5s love to question and be competent. I think push
Well,
back
yeah,
on
yeah.
systems.
So I definitely still love to quite. It's like all right, we got to take a step by step. It's going a little
Yeah.
fast right now.
All
It's going
right.
a little fast.
Yeah.
Like
Sorry.
T
That's
T T E
let
T
me
E's like
the
grabbing all the
T
stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just
T.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Say
So pretty
Darius.
much,
Yeah. Go on.
I start off with the wing. So the wing is
Yeah.
basically you have the 8, but
Uh
then
huh.
what is the nature of the 8? What is
Yeah.
you have this energy, but what are you going to do with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Uh huh.
So you could say the 7, 8 wing 7 is going to do. with that energy as they please.
Mhm.
But then the 8-wing 9 is going to do with that energy what is best for
Mhm.
everyone
Mhm.
as they see it, as they well, what they believe to be best for everyone.
Okay.
So
And what are you?
that's
What's your wings? 9.
7.
7.
I'm 7.
And
No, the reason that I come off, I'm also, there's tri-type. There's other things to consider. So
yeah. And so 7. So I'm 8 wing 7, but and see, like you said, Jay, that there are different theories. Like some people believe. I believe that I personally believe that you could dip in and out because I see the 7 and 9. I definitely
right.
see the 7 and during my more immature years or my younger years when I'm just all about like just that being enthusiastically going after that high from things, that intensity. Everything has to be just like whatever I'm doing, I have to
So
really be into it. And then
what I
9,
think that is
uh-huh.
with that situation, what I think that is actually just that there are stages in development. That's just that's just known. There are stages in development,
Mhm.
and that may or may not mean anything for the wings. It just may be
Okay.
sort of a different aspect of the situation.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha. And I just know I'm now a little bit more peaceful. Like I still feel that fire, but I
yeah,
just certain things I feel like I pick and choose my battles now. I'm like, I don't really care. I don't.
yeah. See that way
Kids will
about
kill
it.
that fire. Kids will.
Yeah,
They humble you. So Darius just now tested as a 5. His brother's always the brother always came out as a 5. I see a clear difference between Darius and Cole. Long story short, like if Cole was to come out and say I'm INTP and I'm 5, I'm like, of course you are. Darius, I don't know. But only you can tell me. So
Right.
well, so who's older? Who was the more influence over the other?
Um, uh, I mean, I'd say earlier on. Oh man, that's a tough one.
you're more extroverted than Cole is.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
But was he the influence though? Because he still could have been an influence over you either way, right? Because you're still close
Yeah,
enough to where an introvert may be acting like an extrovert,
Mhm.
so that's
right,
possible.
right. And I think with me, I was an extrovert acting like an introvert. Um,
And
because
he was the more so like extrovert. Was he acting like sort of the
he was definitely the more he's more of an introvert, but he's sure like if he does or doesn't want to do something,
Mhm.
then he's 100% sure about it. Whereas I'm like iffy and on the line. So
Mhm.
Would you ever like sort of mimic his like how would you sort of go about a situation if there is a issue to arise? Would you go about it in his way? Did you ever see his way of being a
yeah,
solution?
yeah, I'd say so. Our parents would always say, if you were like on the fence about doing something or getting involved with something, and my brother had like, he was definitely sure he didn't want to do it or he wanted to do something else, then I'd go that way, whatever direction.
So I mean, I feel like that's very interesting because you said you're a 5 and then he's a 5, but you're an ENFP, which is uncommon. So that could be a correlation between how your brother acts. So that
Mhm.
could mean that how your brother acted may influence how you've acted, and
9s
then
can be
so that's what.
adaptable.
So possibly, yeah, it could be a 9. It could be
9.
something else, but or it could just be a 5. He could be a 5, and he just sort of he
Mhm.
saw that as his way of sort of
Mhm.
surviving. You know how he would adapt.
Mhm.
So it
Right.
depends. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
And just looking at the two different types, I was talking to Ryan right before this about the 9 and the 5. And I would say the period of time that I typed myself as a 9,
Mhm.
I would definitely have, I saw it as necessary to like, stay calm
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
those situations. And it was definitely like more of a defense mechanism type thing.
Mhm.
Whereas now it's clear to me that when I feel like I have to defend myself, like my instinct is to research it and learn about it. Whereas my instinct used to be to, not get, angry about it or not show emotion about it. So I think that's probably the main difference going on here
Mhm.
between younger me and
Interesting.
how I am now. And so,
Aries, we're gonna talk about if you're a 9 or a 5.
alrighty.
Now, go ahead and let's see. So tell me something about I don't know, some of your pastimes. What are some of your
Sure.
activities that you like to do?
So growing up in high school, my main hobbies were I played drums since I was 12. So that was something I did from seventh grade up until about my final year of college. And I also did martial arts when I was in high school for about 2 or 3 years. Um, of course, with Ryen, I'm hosting this generational talk thing. So I was like a huge history buff. And I actually I got my degree in political science, and I actually worked like in the legislature around, representative.
Interesting.
So,
What made you choose to do that? Why did you do that?
um, I think, let me make sure I word it
You do.
properly. So growing up, like one thing I was super curious about, it initially started as like history, but I got interested in seeing, I guess, how history works in real time, which a lot of people told me, oh, well, political science is probably it. Like the 2008 election had a huge effect on me because I grew up in a super conservative town. And
Interesting.
well, yeah, and the pushback, I guess a lot of them projected stuff onto me. And so I naturally sort of got interested in politics, partially as a way to, I guess, respond back to people. Um, and so that's how I ended up getting interested in politics. And I was that way. I mean, I actually had a different major because I didn't know I could have a career or work in politics, but everybody I talked to thought that was my major. So it's,
Interesting.
a lot about it.
So whenever you said you would get into that in order, that's how you would get like talk to people, like you would sort of tell them your standpoint on a situation. Um,
Mhm.
what was your objective in that situation? Was it to make sure like sort of like see all sides of the situation, or was it to sort of was it to more so just have that information available so that you can stand your ground or sort of stand your point
Yeah, I'd say it was more defensive. Um,
defensive?
yeah, because I mean, I'll just say it straight out. The when during the '08 election, people had a lot of backlash against like, oh, what's Barack Obama? What's this guy's religion? What's his background? And of course, and where I grew up, like, there's not that many people that look like me around. So a lot of that was like, oh, you look like this. Are you also from, Kenya, or are you Muslim? That type of thing, like very aggressive and just uh, that was so. Yeah, I guess I learned it so that I could like give a retort to it, basically.
Okay, I see. So more so a defensive side of things. You wanted your point to stand ground against another point. Okay.
Right.
So another thing is you said you did also play the drums and you did martial arts. What was the thought process behind that?
Um, I think initially, kind of going back to what we said before, my brother had actually started playing drums, and he was having fun doing it. So I did it the following year and picked it up really fast. Um, Eventually, with time, I think what it was in some weird way. Same thing with the martial arts. Like you are in a group, um, and you definitely have your moments where, like, if I'm on drum kit, then I do have solos, and I am. But what I'm mostly doing is like listening and playing off of other people. And that was the part of it I actually liked, and it allowed me, I guess, to be up front and center in situations where I normally wouldn't be comfortable doing it. But because I'm focused on other people and listening, that kind of took my mind off of it.
Okay. So how about this? So do you think that in any of these situations individualism was a big deal, or maybe security? Did you ever feel like security played any major role in you choosing to do something such as like going to politics?
Yeah, I feel like initially it was definitely security based. How I got into all of it. Um, I think it turned into. I'm gonna throw something out there. When I was younger, this game came out called Assassin's Creed,
Yeah.
and I got like super into that. And a big part of it is like history and all of that. And history was my favorite subject in school. Except after a while, when you get into politics, you learn that most of it has to do with interactions between individuals. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that became a big thing. Like, something I'll throw in there is that all of my friends, at least listening to this, they're probably type sevens, very big personalities, constantly have people around them. But I'm consistently, I would say, best friends with those people. Um, and I think part of that was just that the one-on-one interaction with them was definitely something I liked, but also because they draw people in, and that gave me a lot of opportunities just to sit and watch,
Yeah.
different people.
That's very interesting. So you said you like to watch the people and you like being around sevens. Would you say that at any point in time you sort of consider yourself to have similar traits as a seven?
Um, I would say some of that rubbed off on me because I used to be a lot more, I guess, just quiet, sit back, observe. Um, and definitely when I went off to college, that became a huge thing with, I got used to, I guess, reaching out to different people. And I think now that I'm hearing myself say it out loud, sort of related to what I said about why I got into politics, I almost feel like it was also defensive a little bit because that was something that I'd wanted to be able to do before. Um, and I mean, by the time I got towards the end of high school, I was already getting better with that,
Yeah.
but it really sort of evened things out for me after I'd say my freshman year of college.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're definitely a 5-wing-6. I mean, this is only like opinion, and honestly, I'm a few Crown Royals in, and so I mean, I'm really trying my best right now to keep together. So pretty much, yeah, I think you're 5-6. The only reason I say that is because the defensive part that you had spoken about, and how
Mm-hmm.
you had said that you wanted to learn about people more. You wanted to figure out how, like, sort of like what was going on. I think that it could still be a thing for FI and uh, Enneagram 5 to work together if you want to really figure out how people are working and sort of. I think that's sort of the political aspect, but
Mm-hmm.
you're still doing it. You're still doing it in a defensive state of mind, I guess. So yeah, I would say
Yeah.
5-wing-6. That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's less so that now. Like now, it's just genuine curiosity. But I,
Curiosity.
I'd say most of the things I started with, it was initially defensive. Same thing with martial arts. Like,
yeah,
just in case. I think everything I did when
it's
I,
defensive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's funny because like we both study the same things. And when I think of like my interest in politics, especially around 2008, it's more
Yeah,
so it dips into
control.
control, and then there's also then some of that nine-wing diplomacy. The more I learned about what I felt politically speaking, the more control I started to gain. I don't know if you've witnessed that transition, Darius.
Yeah.
The more I know and the more secure I feel and the more healthy I feel, I actually can see the two side because I feel a stronger need to free other people, to help other
Yeah.
people, learn what they believe, not because of their society or their region makes them believe that, but because they believe that. Like if I was to start some type of like
Cool.
nonprofit, yeah, cult,
No, I'm just
it would be
kidding.
to help. It would be to help other people figure out what they believe for themselves.
Yeah.
So,
And I was looking at the Enneagram thing, and I see that for mine it says growth is in the direction of 8, and I can definitely say that.
oh,
Yeah, which is interesting because the people around me, like when I really know what I'm talking about, and like you were saying, I feel secure,
Mhm.
like, you know, I'm on it as
mhm,
far as that's concerned. Like I can take control and manage the situation.
And I feel like fives got the best of both worlds. When they're healthy, they'll be like me, but then when they're unhealthy, they'll be like trying to party. So
I love my
where's
5.
the where?
I don't get how 5 is a stress thing because I maybe that's my intensity, love of intensity and anxiety.
Right.
But
It's like,
I feel okay when I'm in 5 mode.
yeah, me too. I feel good. I feel great. Like I'm accomplishing something, trying to figure out what's going on or whatever.
You know,
That
maybe
type
just
of
don't
stuff.
talk to me. You know, don't bother me. You know, you may have somebody may have to say the right thing if they say the wrong thing when they enter my cave. You know, I may snap at them. There
Right.
may be a little bit of rage. You know, just leave me alone and allow me to
Yeah.
go through my 5. So don't come at me. So this is good. This is really good. All right.
Yeah.
So did you have any other questions, Darius, from, or you want to maybe think about it more, and then when we continue with your brother?
Yeah, I mean, I'll think about it more. My sort of throwing my cards out on the table at the end here, of course, you
Yeah.
know, I say I'm a 5, but, you know, I studied social science. So one thing we study is like, you know, research and
hmm
whether something's valid or not.
hmm
All that means is if we're questioning the validity of something, we're like, is this really measuring what I think it's measuring?
hmm
Then reliability is just, you know, is this reliable? If I take this a bunch of times, will it give me the same result?
hmm
And
Yeah.
that's really where, of course, you know, for me, I'm trying to figure out, I know there's something to this.
hmm
My question is just, is it measuring what we think it's measuring? And
Yeah.
I, you know, and I'm totally curious about that because, like I said, this is, yeah, I mean, this is way more popular than I think it was probably when you guys were in school.
hmm
Um,
Yeah.
because, I mean, pretty much most of the jobs I take, like, there's always, my coworkers are always talking about either this
hmm
or MBTI, which it wasn't that way at all when we got out of high school. So I'm just curious about what people think this is and how they use it to understand, I guess, themselves.
Well, I think we're living during a day and age, and we could save this for our next episode. But I think there's definitely a big push to find your identity, and I think the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enneagram really helps that. I think,
This is
especially
like
our
the next
generation.
stage.
hmm
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
my
It's an
3,
important stage.
yeah, it's an important stage. I was about to say my if I have 3 in my tri-type, my 3 is like dying right now because the lighting on my face is not good, and it's not good for my brand.
All right, we gotta cut it. We gotta cut
All right.
it.
All right. Thank you very much, Jay. So
All
we'll
right, yeah,
continue,
no
and so
problem.
the next time we'll bring in Cole. Take care.
All right.
Sounds good. You too.